Variables on both sides. Previously, we solved the equations with variables on one side, similar to the following: 2x plus 7 equals 13. Now we will be given an equation with the same variable on both sides of the equal sign. These equations will look similar to the following. For example, 3x minus 4 equals 6x plus 8 minus x. Here we have a variable x on the left, variable x and x in two terms on the right. These require one additional step to get all the terms with that one variable to one side or the other. It doesn't matter which side you choose to move the variables to, but it's typically most helpful to choose the side in which the coefficient of the variable will remain positive. Before we encounter the new equations, let's practice how to solve an equation with the variable on only one side. So solving for x, we want to remember our SADMEG and undo the addition or subtraction first. So first we're going to subtract 7 to undo the adding 7. This would give us 4x equals negative 4. We're then going to divide by 4 both sides to undo the multiplying by 4, which will give us an answer of x equals negative 1. What does that actually mean though? X equals negative 1 is our solution, but what does that mean for the equation? Take a minute and discuss the meaning with your neighbor. Hopefully you discussed how this value, negative 1, will always go back to the original equation and make it true. That if you were to substitute in negative 1 for x, 4 times negative 1 plus 7 would equal 3. It would be a true statement. Remember that you always have the ability to check your answers by substituting the value you solved for back into the original equation. It should always be true. It isn't necessary to show on each problem, but it's encouraged if you feel unsure about your answer. Which side do you think would be the easiest to move the variables to? Remember, we want to move the variables so that the coefficient will remain positive. So here we should subtract 2x from both sides because that will give us a positive 2x on the left. We now have only the variable in one spot, so we can continue our normal multi-step equation. We'll subtract 8 from both sides to undo the adding 8. Will leave us with 26 minus 8 for 18. Divide both sides by 2, which undoes the multiplying by 2, to give us our answer, x equals 9. Again, for this equation, which side do you think would be easiest to move the variables to? So here it's best first to combine like terms because we have 7r minus 2r. So that can combine 6r minus 5. 7r minus 2r is 5r. So 7r minus 2r became 5r. Now, looking at this equation, which side do you think it would be easiest to move the variables to? So here, I believe it would be easier to subtract 5r because that would give us a positive 1 coefficient of r instead of a negative 1 if we subtracted the 6r. So then we will add 5 to both sides, which undoes subtracting 5, to have our answer, r equals 12. What do we think about this equation? What is the value of x? So let's try and use our rules and simplify and solve. So first I see that we need to combine like terms, so 6x minus 3x. We will combine to get 3x. Still with the plus 1. We can then subtract 3x from both sides, which actually simplifies both to 0 leaving us with an equation -1 equals +1. What does that mean? When solving an equation where the variables are eliminated and you are left with a false statement, right? -1 does not equal +1. This is false. The answer is going to be no solution. There is no value of x that will make this equation true. Now, what do we think about this equation and this value of x? Again, let's try and simplify using our rules. So first, we'll distribute the 3 to become 3x minus 3 equals 3x minus 3. We would then try and subtract 3x from both sides. And again, our variables seem to disappear and we're left with -3 equals -3. What does this mean? When solving an equation where the variables are eliminated again, but now we are left with a true statement, -3 does equal -3, the answer is going to be infinite solutions. Now, any value of x will make the equation true. If you recall from earlier in this unit, this is known as an identity. Any value will make this equation true. So these two are special cases. We have no solution and infinite solution, which can happen when we have variables on both sides of the equation.